What?
Get out of here.
He's like, you all wear masks, I'm good.
Okay,
We're going, okay, so, good evening, this is the, Tuesday, oops, start the recording now.
Steve, you know Vincent? This is Vincent Stetson.
Yeah, well, we've spoken at
Okay.
length, but not in person, I guess.
Let's introduce himself.
Right.
No.
Okay, this is, the Tuesday, March 1, 2022, Water Pollution Control Authority for the town of South Windsor. Secretary, could you do the roll call?
You want me to do the roll call? Sure. Stephen Wagner,
Here.
Joe Bodie,
Here.
Carol Fletterick, Toby Lewis,
Here.
James Murray,
Here.
Bala Ramasamy,
Here.
Michael Lyon, David Basile,
Here.
and Vicky Paliolis.
So, because Carol Fletterick is not here, we'll have David Basile sitting for Carol Fletterick. And so you know, we rotate through the alternates. So there's only two of them, but if both of you were here, then Vicky would be the alternate next time.
Right.
And vice versa. Okay. All right. So first of all, we have the minutes of the February 1st, 2022 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I have one change I'd like to make. On item C1, it indicates that my election to chair was unanimous, but why don't we just say that there were 4 votes for Mr. Wagner and 2 votes for Mr. Lewis, and you can list the names.
Okay.
All right, any other comments on the minutes?
Motion to accept the amended minutes.
As amended, okay, and the second is that. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so the next thing on our agenda is new business, adopting section 17 miscellaneous user wastewater or MIU wastewater, and renumbering the validity section to section 18. And all we need to do is approve that, since we've had several discussions of that already. Does anybody need an explanation on what that's all about?
We had a public hearing on this last month.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, I didn't receive any comments at the hearing or since then or prior to the hearing, so.
a motion would be in order. You have motions on this sheet of paper, one of you could read it. Paula?
Okay, yeah, sure. New business, adopt section 14. I raise a motion to adopt section 17, miscellaneous industrial use wastewater or MIU wastewater into South Windsor WPCA rules and regulations, and to renumber validity to section 18.
Is there a second? And, Mr. Basile seconded it. And any other discussion? In which case, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I didn't see anyone abstaining. Okay, now item D on the agenda is the superintendent report, and you have a paper version of your report here. Go ahead.
Yep, yeah, I can go through it quickly. So this past month, Jacob Plona passed his class 4 wastewater exam. It's the highest level of certification an operator can achieve. Historically, it has a 20% pass rate. And Jacob started his career in South Windsor in 2013. Without any experience, he just had more of a maintenance background, and he's achieved this level this month. And he's since shown a great interest in our GIS program, moved up to achieve the level of lead operator for our collection systems. Does a great job for us. He helps plan future projects. He's taken a lead on, as I mentioned, the GIS, inspection program and pipe cleaning, so we're really proud of him. Very difficult exam to pass, so it's a big props to him and a kudos for his efforts.
Maybe before you move on, we could talk about sending him a letter also.
Sure, we can do that, yep. We're also taking part in a pilot test program. Deep has referred advanced H2O to our facility, participate in a pilot test for a product that aims to achieve proactive real-time predictions and performance based on advanced microbial analysis. We had a meeting today for a kickoff project, and there's a lot of science going into this, so they're essentially going to be taking samples from different parts of our process, bringing back the results, analyze them, and try to develop a product that will help analyze wastewater and help make decisions and that sort of thing.
Are we paying anything
No,
for
this
this
is
pilot?
completely free.
Some pilots you pay
It's-
for.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, it's a very interesting project. They recently just found some new bacteria that actually helps digest wastewater and produces less sludge. So that's of great interest to us. Sludge hauling is one of our biggest costs. So the less sludge we can produce, the less more money we're going to save. So it's kind of cutting edge technology here that we're participating in. So it's kind of exciting. As we get more feedback from it, I'll certainly be sharing it with the authority. Moving on to the treatment plant. We continue to maintain good performance from the treatment process. We're preparing for seasonal changes with the temperatures warming up. DEP completed a desk audit inspection of our facility last month. The SCADA system upgrade was completed. We made several repairs in the headworks building to some of the equipment. The staff continued to schedule preventative maintenance around the treatment facility as well. In the collection systems, Green Mountain Pipe completed the rehab of 15 manholes that was in various stages of decay. We completed preventive maintenance at Benedict Drive Pump Station, and replaced a valve at the Route 5 Pump Station as well. Moving on to our capital projects and ARPA projects. The pump station upgrade, there's nothing new to report. Arcadis is continuing to work on the 60% design, which should be concluding relatively soon, and we should get a look at that. Phase 4, we opened bids on February 23rd. 3 bids were received. Green Mountain Pipe was the lowest bid at $972,982. We executed a notice of award and are going to be moving forward with them. And that's for both, that includes parts 1 and part 2. And that's well under our budgeted amount. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later during the budget presentation.
Perhaps for the new folks, you could explain what phase 4 is.
So it's sewer pipe and manhole rehab. So phase 4 was created from the 2015 sewer study that Wright Pierce had performed. They studied the sewer system and they came back with recommended improvements for the system. Because of the size and the amount of improvements, and actually this all resulted because of the sewer collapse. There's a collapse, and then they decided to take a look at the rest of the system to see what was going on. So there were 4 phases that came out of the sewer study, And we've completed phases 1 through 3, and it's a lot of sewer lining, which helps, is more for the structural part of things. It just rehabilitates the pipe, and it also seals the pipe to prevent infiltration. And infiltration is essentially just groundwater that is entering the pipe, going to the treatment plant and being treated. That doesn't really need to be. And there's obviously a cost associated with that. So we're into phase 4. That's taking place more on the eastern part of town. Phase 3 dealt with the Chapel Road sewer lining. We've completed that. And phase 4 is, we're getting into more of the, we have all the critical pipe completed. Now we're getting into the still critical but less critical pipe that we're trying to complete with this project. So that's kind of what it is. And we broke up phase 4 into part 1 and part 2 because we got the ARPA funding. In this year's budget, the authority approved $750,000 to complete part 1. The plan was to complete part 2 next year, but we got the ARPA funds, so the authority approved completing part 2 this year as well. So we bid the project as phase 4, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that later on. And for the UV disinfection, I don't have anything new to report. We're going to be undergoing design phase very, very shortly. And the Clark Street Force Main, the notice of award was issued to VMS Construction, and we have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for tomorrow. The collector of revenue provided a report. Commercial industrial collection rate is 99.76%, and the residential collection rate for this year is 95.7%. Residential bills went out in October, so they're going to be sending out delinquency letters and to any users with outstanding balances. After accounts have been reviewed, lenders will be notified of the liens and delinquencies. If the debt is not satisfied, alias warrants will be issued to interested marshals and constables. The commercial bills are scheduled to be mailed for this year on March 21st. We're going to be doing the billing. And the collector of revenue staff she wanted to note that we have 4 outstanding commercial industrial delinquent accounts from last year that her staff will be pursuing, and her goal is to make that whole and have a 100% collection rate on the commercial industrial side of things. So she continues to do a fantastic job, and that's what I have for the report, and I can take any further questions.
So, any questions? Bobby, you?
I just have one question, for the pilot test thing, is part of the result of that gonna be a cost-benefit analysis of what the project will cost once the pilot is done and they propose something compared to?
So they're trying to create some sort of, they're trying to create a product that will help. Can't speak too much about it on public record. They want to.
Right,
So
I'll try to narrow my question.
they're trying to create a product to help analyze wastewater and produce a cost savings. If they can reduce sludge and help predict what is going to happen and changes that may happen and optimize the process, that's their goal.
Right, my question is will there be, as a result of the pilot, will there be results enough to determine if it's worth the cost or the effort for South Windsor? In other words, will they be able to convert enough sludge to lower our costs enough to be worth it, or are we better off just going as we are? That's a little cost benefit.
Oh, yeah. So,
Would that be a result of this pilot?
yeah, this is more product development. I got the sense that they weren't. They're just kind of they're feeling everything out and kind of pursuing one avenue, but it's a very dynamic, fluid situation. So if this part isn't working, they might pursue something else or different bacteria or analyzing different bacteria.
In that point, we can start charging them to develop their product. Thanks.
Joe, any,
As far as the collections, I know you said for residential it's like 95%. Is that typical or is that?
For this time of year, it's pretty typical.
Yeah.
We've done pretty well over the years. We're like in-
This is really good.
yeah, she approaches like the 98% for the collection rate. So yeah, overall it's pretty good. So for this time of year, the 95, 96 is pretty much on target. Yeah.
Dave?
Oh, no, that seems like pretty high rate. Is that pretty typical for towns in general, do you know, or?
I'm not sure with towns in general. I know for South Windsor, it's a pretty typical rate, which is good.
Yeah.
I want to say it's on the higher end of things.
Yeah.
Years ago, we did have, we didn't have those collection rates. There was a lot of delinquencies, and we've considerably reduced that. I think it was somewhere around 800,000 in delinquencies, and we're down to maybe 200,000. Might even be under 200 at this point. So yeah, that's something that the authority and Collector of Revenue's office has been working hard the last 5 years on. So, yep. And Jennifer's been doing a great job. She's been in the office for 5 years. So, yeah, she's been an asset for sure.
So how much are we using, well, I guess we'll let Bala go.
I think mine is a different topic, so.
Well, then, how much are we using the, constables, yeah, at this point?
Right, yeah, so everything that I mentioned in the report is in line with our standard operating procedure that we have drafted between the two agencies. So yeah, after 60 days it goes to constables, and then after that it will go to state marshal if they can't collect or get any action or movement on the accounts.
Yeah, just regarding the bidding, typically how many bids you will get?
Depending on the size of the project, we'll typically see 3 or 4. These are pretty big projects, so yeah, it's probably
Are they all
standard.
bonded?
Yes.
All bonded.
Yep.
Anything else?
So when will the final recommendation be tabulated and it says pending, right? Yeah, final recommendation.
Yeah, so I actually just, yesterday I received the recommendation from the project engineer to move forward with Green Mountain Pipe. So we've executed the notice of award. We're gonna be doing a pre-construction meeting and doing the notice to proceed and sign all the agreements and get those in place. And we're gonna be moving, hoping to begin construction in the spring for this project.
Jim?
Also, I asked the question before, the bonding. You check them out, they're legitimate bonds and all that?
Yep, it's a reputable company. For
Which one, the bond company or the,
Green Mountain
okay.
and the bond, and the bond company, the banks as well.
I'll offer our liaison, Counselor King, if you have
No,
any
I'm good.
comments or questions.
I'm not on the record.
I'm just here for show.
So I noticed on the treatment plant flows, we had high flows in July and September. I seem to recall we had some weather back in those periods. So I guess the question I have is these projects like Phase 4 should be helping with those peaks, but there are other sources of influence.
Right, you'll have illegal connections, house connections with sump pumps and whatnot. That's considered inflow. The infiltration is actually groundwater penetrating through cracked pipes, the joints in pipes, and that sort of thing. Manholes.
So do we have any feeling for how that divides up, or is it even possible to ask the question?
The more sewer lining we do, the more reduction you'll see, but we have 130 miles of sewer pipe, and we're talking about lining, maybe a mile of sewer pipe, so.
Okay.
Are we gonna notice it? No, but over time, as we continue with the sewer, with the pipelining and manhole rehab, it all helps.
All right, any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, the next item, is, item E. Anyone from the public, we only have two people here who are not members of the authority.
Yeah, I can introduce Vincent Stetson. He's the new Director of Public Works for the town of South Windsor. He's filling Mike Gantick's position. Mike retired after 37 years as Director of Public Works. Vincent's formerly the street superintendent. And yeah, I'll let him do his introduction, but
Yeah,
he's
thanks.
been
Thanks for having me, guys. I just wanted to come and introduce myself, take a minute to kind of pump you all up and pump Tony up here a little bit. I also sit on the WPCA in Tolland. It's the highest user rate in the state. I think it's $18 per 1,000 gallons. So if you do the math, it's about $1,100 higher than your rate, or $1,000 higher than your rate. And I believe you guys have one of the lowest rates in the state. So kudos to you guys and the past commissions before you. I know that in the past, these commissions have been fairly apolitical and very business driven, and I hope that you guys can continue on with that tradition and just focus on the numbers and whatnot. I know Manfrey has really turned this place around. When I started, Fred Shaw was here, and he's made an indelible impact. And I think you can see the proof is in the pudding with his crew, all the accolades they've been receiving. Jacob Polona making his fourth license here. It's really, really impressive, and I just wanted to kind of sit in and see how you guys go about your WPCA, maybe bring something back to mine in Tolland. It's a totally separate animal. We basically have maybe 90 users, 6 pump stations, and it all gets serviced to Vernon. So we got quite a bit of overhead. It's very challenging, and a little jealous of what we got going on here in South Windsor. I'm always available. My door's always open if you guys have any ideas, want to bounce anything off of me. And I know that Tony and I have worked hand in hand on solving a lot of common problems.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Must be the deputy.
belated welcome. Mr. King, anything?
I was just saying, it must be the deputy mayor that we have here. I'll be more than happy to
Deputy
visit.
Mayor King, that's right.
I'll be more than happy to visit. Don't worry about it. I'm just joking. Sorry.
Okay, I did notice one thing in your report, the paper, we have the certificate and letter that we
Oh,
sent
yeah.
to Mr. Lemay.
Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I did include that. Yeah, good letter and certificate for Jeff.
Nice.
Well deserved.
Well
His
deserved.
recognition.
Well deserved.
He's always been extremely helpful to us. A lot of times offline discussions happen with him, and I just think he's great.
Certainly an asset.
All right, let's see, we're now ready to move on to, I can go through a meeting without losing the agenda. I feel like I'm doing pretty well. Item F, refund of excess payments.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 3 funds totaling $1,376.38 as noticed on the attached report from the collective revenues to the Angela office.
Second.
Second from Mr. Body. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. So now we move on to the interesting things, other interesting things, our discussion of our budget.
I just called up, it's my first time using it, as of last meeting. I'm gonna use the first time. All right.
No way, cool.
Cool.
Well, the trick's gonna be when Steve does his presentation. I'm gonna flip this.
It's Tony Stark.
All right. So, the budget package that you have in your agendas, That's essentially, it's a lot of the same, it's basically the same budget that I gave to you last month. When I calculated the sewer fee, it came out to $495. That's $80 over what the sewer fee is currently. There's one exception. I substituted the garage storage facility, VFD replacements. We have 28 variable frequency drives at the treatment facility. They're in the 10 to 15 year range. We actually have someone coming out, check those out and give us to analyze, see if we need to replace those, how many we need to replace, and then give us a cost estimate for replacement. So it's one of the variables for next month. As we work through this process, I want to just highlight a couple of considerations and some points to keep in mind. We got into a little bit about the Phase 4 bid prices. Those came in under budget, so I think what we can do, and I'll have a more formal presentation or recommendation for next month, is we can take the local funds that we're going to apply to Phase 4 Part 1. We can apply those to the aeration slide gates that was in next fiscal 23's budget. We can essentially move $800,000 from the budget, or from the proposed budget, and then complete Phase 4 with the federal ARPA funds. Another consideration is going to be the rising fuel prices. I always project them a little bit higher, but they've already exceeded, the current prices have exceeded my projected prices, so I'm gonna have to tweak that a little bit. And the last thing is the other thing is the sludge hauling costs. I mentioned before that that's one of our largest costs is managing our solids. The bid is out. Our current contract expires in June, and I have a bid out, and we'll be opening that at the end of the month. So a better idea of what sludge hauling costs are going to be. And the other key player that I really want to emphasize is our capital improvement plan, which is also included in your agenda package. He already has his open. We maintain a 10-year capital improvement project plan. It's a living document. We're always changing it. We get new information, projects may change. If we get updated information on costs, that'll also change. But for now, that's what we have in place. And another big thing the authority has been working hard on is rate stabilization. And that's really where the reserve accounts were born from. Years past, rates would increase and decrease as needs rose or receded. So the reserve accounts were essentially created in case there was any sewer collapses, if we lost an aeration blower, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. If something the authority could absorb without affecting the ratepayer. So I just really want to hammer that home and want you to keep that in mind as we work through this. And probably the last thing that I didn't put on here would be the reserve funding, since that came up. We're currently right around 60% funded, so we're 40% underfunded. And that's found in the rules and regulations, the formula and how that's calculated on what our benchmarks are. So the capital improvement plan, I just have the 5-year outlook here. As I mentioned, we have the 10-year in your packets. For fiscal year 23, I'm looking at the aeration slide gates. This is a critical repair that we need to make. That essentially, it's a process control that we use at the treatment plant to control our secondary clarifiers. I'll have more information on that next month. But in fiscal 24, I want to do another sewer evaluation study. And then in 25 and 26, the 2 following years, I want to plan on making the repairs, the recommended repairs that are a result of the study. And then we get into our pump stations. We have 11 pump stations in town. They're spaced out one per year. And you can see you're on the chart there that we do one per year. They're 1 to 2 million, depending on the size of the pump station. And then that's gonna bring us into the pump treatment plant upgrade. And by that time, you're probably looking at like a $60 million facility upgrade. So these are just the things I want you to keep in mind as we walk through this. I think we're in a really good spot with our capital improvement projects and the funding that the authority has put forth in the past. As soon as you get behind the 8 ball, it's very hard to recover. This is a slide I had last month, just showing our user rates. We have 3 years of 415. Our collection rates are very good, as we discussed. I don't receive many complaints. This was the year, 2018-19 was the year I received the most complaints, and I had 3 people that called just asking about the user rate and wondering why it went up so much. So I just wanted to point that out again. This is, so I took a look at surrounding town user rates and household income. So we have the state average. This is from the tie and bond study that they do every 2 years. They kind of put out a general survey to the towns and get the feedback on the rate. And this is a user rate, because everybody does their sewer rate a little bit different. This is based on 29,000 gallons. State average was $520. And then I took household income for the state, and then each surrounding town that I could get. You can see South Windsor has the lowest rate of our neighbors with by far the highest household income. So for next month, these are some things I'm going to be looking at. I did some rough calculations. I think we can pull $800,000 and remove the aeration slide gate from the fiscal 23 budget. And we can get that completed this year. And the other thing to note on this, we checked on parts to make the repair. They're 6 months out. So if we can get the project going now, we should have it done by in the fall time. And that's, again, when we're making process changes with the seasonal changes. So that'll be now would be a good time to start getting that project going. The other thing, it looks like we're gonna have to increase fuel costs by roughly $9,000. And then sludge hauling, I'll have a better idea at the end of the month. And if you take all this into consideration, the net result will be roughly a $60 reduction in the user fee from what I had calculated of $495 user fee. So that'll get you into the $435 mark for sewer user fee, which is a $20 increase. I don't think that's a big, considering that we've had 2 $0 increase, 0% increases, $0 increases over the last 2 years, and we've maintained a 415 user rate for 3 years. I think going up $20 this year is not a big ask. You know, I do realize that there are some people that, you know, that could be a big dollar amount for them. However, we do offer the income discount program, and I know we're going to be looking at some other changes in the user structure. So that's kind of where we're at now. Again, by next month, I should have a better handle on where we're going to be, and yeah, so we can go from there. So I can certainly take any questions and comments from the group. Yeah.
I guess I'll go in the opposite direction this time. Jim? Bala?
I think The revenues comparison, right, we had kind of discussed briefly last time. Was there any other updates, or whether we are going to have increase or?
That's gonna change significantly with the user rate, because if we're collecting, $495 versus $415, that revenue is a lot. We have just about 8,600 residential accounts, and another 350 commercial industrial accounts. So that revenue is gonna change significantly with, what the user rate is. But as far as the other sources of revenue, those are pretty much a best guess, a good projection of where we're gonna be.
And one more question, like whenever we add new connection, right, 415, out of that, what percentage is the cost or like equal or if it is for each household?
Yeah, so for a new connection,
Yeah.
there's a connection charge, there could be a benefit assessment that's owed, there could be capacity charges. But as far as the user rate goes, it's prorated, so that all depends on what month they connect. It'll go down, so it'll start at $415 if they connect in July, and, it'll be deducted by, I think it's like $20 or $30 a month. So, yeah.
Prorated by the number of months.
You prorate it, yeah, so it's user fee divided by 12. That's, yep.
So in that case, if there is a new connection, right, that's going to cost the department more than the 415?
No.
No.
No, not in user fees. There is a connection fee of just under $1,300 right now. So they'll have to pay the $1,300 and then they pay a user fee for the rest of the year is what they're doing.
Right, so that difference, how does it, in the budget, where is it calculated?
Oh, so for new connections, so what I do is I talk with the planning department. I get an idea of how many subdivisions might be going in. We don't have many subdivisions anymore, residential. You might be looking at like a dozen as a big one at this point. So I think, I wanna say it projected maybe 10 new residential connections for the year. So it's a very small amount.
If I may.
David,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I don't have any questions, thank you.
Joe?
Just on the sludge hauling, that's not a flat fee, is that per gallon?
It's
Like how
a
does
per
it-
gallon fee,
Okay.
yes, yeah. That's why we're interested in the pilot program. If we
reduce
can reduce our
that.
sludge, then
Makes sense.
that's, yeah.
Okay.
How much do we pay for sludge?
It's about 360,000 we budgeted last year. Per gallon, we do almost 60 loads a week. It's 60, or not a week, per month at 6,300 gallons. So if you want to do the math.
Tony?
Guess we're full of it. I want to say this correctly. I mean no offense, but it seems like the data has been set up to set us up to make it plainly logical that we need to raise the rates into a certain amount. So it's setting us up that way, and I feel very resistant against that because I feel like it could be presented another way too, instead, because that's how data works. So I'm not interested necessarily, and I don't think we should be interested in being influenced by what all the other communities are doing, because we're our own place and we have our own expenses and our own goals, our own 10-year plan. So the fact that we're lower than other towns, we don't need to do something because the Joneses and the Smiths are doing it. That's a wrong mentality, I think, that we often go with, and I would teach my kids not to do that. That's not necessarily smart thinking. So I'm resistant against that, but that slide was put there to cause an effect on us, to have us go along, because I know the town in general, politically, wants our rates to go up, because they want the money, they want the funding and whatnot. So I know that's the backdrop, and I mean no offense to anyone here about that, but that's the bigger plan. And I'm sorry to be talking like this. Well, so Also, the income of the residents is a little bit irrelevant because we probably pay more for schools than a lot of so it balances out. So, but it's been set up to be that because of this data, we can easily afford to raise the rates X amount of dollars, but we're gonna get mysteriously maybe $60 off that, but that's not guaranteed, it's a guess. So it may not, so there's some variables in there. I would say that it would not behoove us to just assume that, well, obviously we're gonna raise the rates, it's just a matter of how high and how far, but I think we need to hold the line as best we can. And if we go up, which we may or may not need to, but we go up baby steps and incrementally, but the $4.95 and we'll get the $60 off that.
That wasn't.
That just that I know that's not what it's saying, but that's how the data was presented.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that we go, match other towns. When I put the budget together, it's in the best interest of our facility and our infrastructure. I want to work on getting the reserves built up, so in case we do have a sewer failure, that can quickly eat up $1 million. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. It's a very expensive business, especially when you get into emergency repairs. And that's another reason I really want to push the capital improvements and continue funding the capital improvements, so we don't have those emergency repairs. I just want to stay ahead of it.
I agree. So I think you've been doing a great job with this, and thank goodness. But what we've done in the past 3 or 4 years of maintaining a flat line on the rates is we haven't advanced as much as you like, but we haven't suffered. And I'm not saying that it would be foolish not to plan for the future. So, but I just, how quick and how fast to get there is my concern, because right now, because of so many things, because everything in the world costs so much money now, that everything hurts. I mean, going to the store and buying a gallon of milk hurts, because you go to the store, I mean, Stop and Shop no longer gives you gas points to spend $160 because you can do that by just getting a couple things. All of a sudden, gee, this groceries just cost me $75, now it costs $180. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we're seeing that too.
Exactly. So
no,
it's going up everywhere. But whereas we speak and we're advocates for the citizens, we need to ask you to really try and keep things as tight as possible, which I know you do.
Yeah.
You have a great tight management process, and you've got great staff. I just don't want to assume. I know I met with some town people who just said, who make sour comments, yeah, the rates in South Windsor need to go up. Well, I think we need to be cautious.
Yeah,
that's all I want to share with the board, is how I saw the data come across, and maybe I received it the wrong way. But it seemed like the data was presented in a way so as to present you with the obvious conclusion that this is where we're going to end up, and I didn't get there. I felt that was... So anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
So it's actually also a little misleading to say we haven't raised the rates, because one thing we did, and I forget what year, we reduced the minimum flow from 84,000 to 79,000. So what that did was allowed us to keep the 415, but it increased the cost to businesses. So,
Good point.
we are,
Somebody absorbed it.
and that's something we've been working on for, at least since 2016, or maybe 2013, to bring down the disparity between houses and businesses in terms of how the flow is charged, or what flows we assume a house is using, and I'll talk about that some more. That's nice for the homeowners, but we have to be careful about the businesses, the impact we have on them, of course. Any other comments or questions about the budget? You do have in there an electric car still. There is a subcommittee of the Energy Committee Jeff Doolittle is on it, and Jim McPherson. And they're looking at a broader program for the whole town, designed to give us this capability of having a lot of chargers scattered around, but not actually costing us any money, which is what the town council likes to hear. And in addition, there are a couple of guys who are now trying to get us to move on this, the commercial people who would like to offer to supply electric vehicle chargers to us. That's something that they're aware that you're interested in, probably what would be the first electric vehicle. So that's kind of still at the brewing stage. It's nothing concrete happening, no RFPs going out yet, but just so you know.
Yeah, guys, well, since I'm here, I might as well, just give you guys my angle and my just contrarian. I love to debate, and I totally agree with what you're saying, Toby, but there's a saying that a rising tide raises all ships, but it also can sink a lot. And if for just basic numbers, if for the past 5 years you've had $1 million to work with and you haven't raised it, due to inflation, you really only have $800,000. And now, with the increase of all the parts going up, you have less and less money to work with, and knowing that you have a $60 million bomb in another 10 years because you need to rebuild it, now is the time to plan and not do it with tomorrow's dollars. And I hate raising rates, but when the cost of business is going up, it's very, very difficult to keep squeezing and squeezing until something breaks. And I don't want to get into the cost of deferred maintenance and all of that, but it's very, very true. They say a rising tide will raise all the ships, but it sinks quite a few of them because they don't. If you were in business right now and you didn't raise your rates, what would happen? You would go out of business. This is essentially a business.
This 10-year plan, this is all today's dollars? So like 60 million is gonna be,
So the first column has the today's dollars cost, and then I think it's a 3% increase year over year.
Yep,
oh,
I
okay.
checked it,
So- Yeah, what was that?
Got it.
I rounded to a different number, but you're close.
Oh, okay,
For government work.
okay, I can check it.
So are you including some inflation in these numbers? I guess
That's
I
what
was.
you did.
Yeah, the 3%, which is up
Okay.
top. Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see, yeah.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a discussion of rate structures, and there is a slide package here, but I also think I can get my laptop to play some of this stuff. Probably needs to be reawakened.
How does the school impact this though? 2023.
Oh, good. Get myself a chair.
Excuse me.
You have, in your handout, this PowerPoint. If you wanna look at that instead of the screen. What did I just do? Okay. So last time we discussed briefly some of the ideas of, changing the rate structure, which is an option. I don't think any of us were ready to make a final call on that, and people asked for some more background information, which a fair amount of this is just background information to hopefully answer some of the questions people were asking. But then I'll talk a little bit more. So this kind of tells you where our bedrooms are, and we had a discussion about perhaps charging apartments more, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but you can see that apartments typically are in 1 and 2 bedroom, and unfortunately, I don't have the exact breakdown. I know the total, 638, but just based on some of the more recent planning and zoning proposals, we've been seeing about 1/3 1 bedroom and 2/3 2 bedroom. I don't know if that's been the historical behavior, but apartments by and large are 1 and 2 bedroom. Are there any 3 bedrooms out there? I don't know. It's possible, but condos tend to weight heavily in the 2 bedroom, and of course, single family houses tend to weight in the 3 bedroom area, 3 and 4 bedroom. So, we have to think about the kind of load on the sewer system that these different groups provide. And I'll have some more data about that. This is a list of all the apartment developments. That's where the 638 comes from. Thank you, Heather, for providing that list. By the way, there's one apartment development that we do not charge.
638 is the number of apartments?
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't charge the housing authority. Oh, I get to go back. Oh, maybe I'm on numlock or something. Yeah, there we go. I was on numlock. So we don't charge the South Windsor Housing Authority for their for sewer fees. We also don't charge the schools. We don't charge town hall or any of the municipal buildings, which is something we've sort of toyed with in the past. All that would do would be shift the budget. We basically ask the taxpayers to pay for the sewer service they're getting when we run the town hall, and I think that idea kind of fell very flat very soon, so we won't go into that again. These are all of our commercial condos. Commercial condos tend to be a facility owned by a business, and then they can break it into smaller businesses. And we tend to charge the commercial condos the minimum, which would be the $415. You asked about what was coming in terms of new developments. So this is actually from a report that was given to the Board of Education. The information is dated end of October. So some of it may be slightly out of date, but the last 2 items on there, South Windsor Woods has 150 occupied units. And they're gonna get 5 more, and they may already have them for all I know, but Chestnut Ridge is under construction. They've got 4 units occupied, and they're gonna have another 15. So that's 30 units from this group, which is 1 page in the report. And then there's more planned housing. Now, 2 of the things we just talked about appear on this as well, so I'll try not to duplicate that, but Masco Road, they extended, the Planning and Zoning Commission extended, allowed them to extend Masco Road. They're gonna build 12 units there. Geisler's, the site plan is, or the general plan has been approved, the zoning's been approved. There's some appeal going on in the courts, so we don't know how long that's gonna take. Eventually they'll come in with a site plan. They're looking at roughly 125 apartments, rental units. And Evergreen Walk, they came in for a zoning change and a general plan, and that was rejected by a 4-3 vote by planning and zoning. So I believe they're gonna come in with a new application. I don't have any idea what its chances are. So I'm assuming, right now we can probably assume if that's gonna happen, it isn't gonna happen next year. So in addition to the Chestnut Ridge, we've got another 12 single-family houses coming in the near term. Geisler's, at best, you're looking at fiscal 2025. Evergreen Walk, could be the same time frame. I don't know, but, basically we got relatively few new, sources of residential revenue coming in the next year. Maybe some 2 years from now or, will start to show up. So I guess, since that was a question people asked, I'm wondering if you have any questions about that. Maybe, Vince, you know anything?
There's a lot of rumors out there about future development that it's not really genuine to talk about. But from my take, the impact that, new housing is gonna have to your revenue is minute, as opposed to increasing your rate, a small percent.
So if on the one coin, we're a business, right? We gotta operate fiscally wise so as not to go underwater. Then charging a fee to the school and to the town that's their operating cost. It's a business, right?
Yeah, but then the school just goes and
Well,
charges the town.
I
anyway,
understand
so
the
it's a
circle it
shell
is.
game.
Right, but, and I'm not advocating right now, that's just a thought that's thrown out there, if it's, I'm not, as a business owner now, or as a partner in a business, I'm not concerned about how the other people run their business, that's their business, we're running this business, right? And so if I have a tunnel vision on there, then, I mean, that's a huge use of resources for the town.
The one thing that would do is the only people paying for sewer use are the people who are connected to the sewer right now. And actually the people who are not municipal, okay? So everybody who lives in this town benefits from the sewer service that we provide to the schools and so on. So there's some logic in doing that. I think we'd probably want to give the council and the Board of Ed a year's warning before we drop that one on them. But it would spread the cost, that portion of the cost out to all of the taxpayers, their share of running the schools and running the municipal buildings. And I wish I can't remember what we thought that was worth.
Can we do a forecast of what that would do for how that would change the revenue flow?
Is this even like proper under charter? Because I know under the charter, the town's
I don't
responsible
think
for
so.
the upkeep. And yeah, I think it's a moot point. You're not allowed to do that. Like, we're responsible for maintaining the schools, which is, part of it is the sewer. I'm not, don't take me out of context, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that point.
Well, on the other hand, this is just another utility in a lot of ways. So the town pays for its electric bill, the schools pay their electric bill, they pay for their water.
Plus, we're not a town, we're an authority.
When we looked at it a few years ago, I don't think the charter was ever checked. Because, we were just kind of tossing it around, it was tossed around, I don't think it was ever seriously considered, but I want to say it was $100,000 at 2018 or something, when we were, when it was looked at. But, yeah, Vincent might be correct, it could be.
And you guys know how that
charter.
domino's gonna fall. The school board's just gonna go and raise,
Of course, yeah.
so it's just kicking the can down the road.
I have those numbers on my computer at home. I can answer that question next time.
No, question, Steve, with the planned housing, they all seems to be concentrated, right? Like with the pumping station location, is there an impact?
For these, so the Geisler's project, that'll go directly to the treatment plant. Maskell, I don't think there's any pump stations there, but
way
that's
up
only
on Barbary Hill
12.
Road, right?
Yeah, that's only 12 houses, so that's not gonna be a significant impact on pump stations. And then Evergreen Walk goes to Clark Street, and when Evergreen was before it was Evergreen, they did a sewer evaluation to make sure that Clark could handle all the flows, and we keep an eye on that. So that one is, yeah, when that one comes in, we look at the, you know, what the anticipated flow is gonna be versus what our actual flows are.
Yeah, they will have to come to us to get approval. And I think the way it works is they go to inland wetlands before they come to planning and zoning. They come to us after.
Yeah, we're the last stop, so they have to get all their permits and approvals, and then they come to Water Pollution Control Authority and get the final approval.
So just so you know, since that first time when we set the rate at $415, has been 11.7% increase in the consumer price index. You can see a graph of it. I got this off the Bureau of Labor and we have managed, you know, thanks to our staff basically, and of course our own urging, we've managed to keep our rate at $415 for 3 years against this, and as Vince was mentioning, against this 11.7% increase. The large business users did see some increases, as I mentioned before, and we haven't achieved our goals for reserves. So that's, you know, part of that same background. So one question is, well, who's putting all that water down the drain? I broke it up. Data. Some of this data comes from 2019. Those are the green numbers. So the first column is a list of different types of businesses. The next column is the way they're being billed right now. So we're assuming that 1 to 4 family houses have 79,000 gallons a year. We're assuming the condos put out 79,000. Apartments are billed differently, so they're actually paying for their actual water use, and they're coming in at about 24,000. All the businesses that are below the minimum, again, 79,000, and then the high-use businesses, which would include, say, Carlos Pasta, and all the apartment developments tend to be higher than the minimum because they're billed for the whole development. So they're coming in, you know, an average of 710,000 gallons a year. So the estimated actual water use for 1 to 4 family houses, it's a little difficult to measure that because we have seasonal uses that don't go down the sewer. So if you measure them on an annual, if you look at all 4 quarters in this study we did in 2019, they come in around 59,000 gallons. If you take the 2 lowest quarters and double it, you come in around 51,000. So I don't know how much of that seasonal variation is increases not going down the sewer and how much is people, you know, they're not going to school in the summer, so they're staying home, they're using those facilities and so on. So I put in the middle of those 2 numbers. Condos, they're coming in around 45,000 gallons, apartments again at 23. So when we looked at billing based on the flow, these kind of numbers were important, but it's also a question of, you know, we've always been saying that the 1 to 4 family and the condos are really paying more than their share, at least based on water usage. Now there's other things when you look at our budget, it's a relatively small amount is actually chemicals and sludge and utility, you know, electric bills. So a lot of it is just the fact that we all benefit from having this system in the town. So, but it's just worth noting that, you know, as we've said in the past, and remember this used to be 84,000, this used to be 93,000 in fiscal year 14, 79,000. So we've been working on that. We could continue to work on that if we want. Every time we do that, though, we raise business. So if you get a 1% reduction in the homes, you're going to have a 3% increase on your businesses. You can multiply that out. So I did put together a spreadsheet. This is based on one of our water bills, a lot of the calculations. My total flow is somewhat different than what Tony got, so these numbers, you know, this data here is not accurate, but it's here to give you a good feeling of how changes we might make will affect our bill. So if we take that this policy that we have now would collect 4.8 million, and we were to reduce the flow to 74,000 gallons, that changes that 4.8 million. I don't know why my mouse doesn't move around. Oh, there it is. Okay. So looking here, we change that to 4.9 million. So we pick up another 100,000 or 67,000 by making that change. But that change increases, you know, collects another 198,000 from these, another 67,000 from these high-use businesses. So we basically transfer the increase in revenue that we get by doing that, and I'm keeping it at 415 here. We transfer that to the businesses basically, or we charge them for it basically. If we change apartments instead, we change apartments and build them like they were condos, that generates $185,000 in revenue, additional revenue. And if we do both of those things, we could collect another $250,000 in revenue. So that's the idea of that slide there. So I did calculate the effect of these new developments down here. And the current policy, the new condos and apartments and Geisler's bring us up to, you know, they bring us another 100,000, whoops, and so on. Not a lot. However, if we do the apartment thing, we gotta learn not to touch anything. If we do the apartment thing, we see fairly substantial increase from the Geisler's project when it comes on board. But that's, again, not gonna happen in this fiscal year. Any questions about that before I look at what happens if we raise the rates?
So the apartments currently, based on the flow, it's 80,000.
Right. Well, if we change them treat them like condos, then they go up another 180,000 to 265.
I feel like I'm talking too much here, but.
No, we always ask Mike to talk, so, at least in the energy committee.
So we had that slide earlier about, you know, the average income in town. It's not far-fetched to assume that by raising the apartments, you're going to be impacting the folks that can afford it the least.
Yep. I mean, one possibility would be to do it halfway, or and actually the condos probably say the same thing. That their average income is much lower than the people who have 4-bedroom houses.
A lot of them are retirement communities too.
Last time we looked at this, that was a concern. I think that was the primary concern with the apartments, was the income level. Yeah, if we start like playing with different numbers or different scenarios for apartments or any other building for that matter, we're increasing that margin of error or chance of error on the billing process. Last time when we dropped 84,000 gallon minimum to 79,000 gallon minimum, that's a relatively simple change. It's just basically a change when we're doing the billing. So I just wanna put that out there just as I guess a word of caution. I just wanna keep the probability of error during the billing process as low as possible. The commercial billing, because it's consumption-based, takes an enormous amount of time. It's only 360 accounts, but it takes an enormous amount of time, which Heather can certainly attest to, versus the residential billing, which is basically
Flat fee.
8,600 times 415. Send it to the billing company, and the bills go out. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Well, actually, doing the apartments that way would take them out of that variable and put them into the fixed category. But that's probably the least important part of the discussion.
So there are a lot of variables that we don't know. You know, we don't know it's dangerous to make assumptions that because someone bought a condo in South Windsor, that therefore they have less money. That's maybe true, but it might be their third condo that they have in various places. Who knows? So that's dangerous. If we go with what Vince had implied and said, and we look at the data that you have, which seems very current, the 11.8% increase, then to stay net zero, that would take the rates to 464.80 from 415, just to stay level, right? Because the 11.8% increase, right? So if we get up to that area, and if we go up maybe a couple dollars above that, I don't know if that's feasible. It'll be part of the discussion, but I would love to see if out of that we could start creating kind of what the state does already with everyone's paycheck, is create our own little inner PFMLA. You know, a certain percentage of everything goes towards a fund to help those who need help.
Could you break out what PFMLA is?
Paid Family Medical Leave Act. It's just it's a contingency fund for catastrophic needs. We can create our own fund, our own grant fund that could be dealt with probably a minimal sort of administration fee. We could have that money's being invested, earning money, but being funded that's available that we can grant qualified residents to get help. So that's a way we can use some of that. We can justify some of the increase for that. And again, I'm just brainstorming here.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, that, in a sense, it's kind of what our reserves are built for. In a sense, I understand what you're saying. It is.
But our reserves aren't set up to earn interest and be live money.
They do go into an account.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, they do earn a little bit of interest.
Does it go in the general account?
It's
They get their hands on it.
so all the money's into a general account, and then
They got their
but
hands
it's
on it.
earmarked. So
They got their hands on it.
we have our accounting. But all sewer use funds are for sewer use for the WPCA funding. It's a special revenue fund.
So it can't be,
So
it can't be
the town
adjusted, it can't be,
Board of Ed, they can't take what they
Same as the Board of
allocated
Ed?
for the,
Vote on the
yeah,
budget.
they can't use sewer use funds.
Well, I think the real question is, when do we vote on what we bring to the hearing? And I think, when is that?
May.
May? Okay.
It's the
2
public
months from
hearing.
now,
And then we vote June.
Okay, so we did these calculations with a rate of $4.35, which is a $20 increase. And you can see that just with the current system, you know, apartments billed by the water use, et cetera, that brings us another $232,000 in revenue. Again, with the numbers I have here, your numbers probably more accurate and would be slightly different, but roughly that amount of money. You know, we do all of that stuff and raise the rates, it brings us in another $500,000. So I probably don't need to do both of those, but how much is our reserve supposed to be?
We're supposed to have about 5.5 million total. So we have two reserves, a capital and replacement. Capital's about $1 million and replacement's 4.4.
So these are the things to ponder. We could change, you know, I do have the spreadsheet here if anyone wants to change anything. I think the idea is to now go around and just hear what people are thinking, how you're reacting to these options. And it's interesting that this 232,000 is very similar to what we get by keeping the 415 and doing both of these other changes. We get 264 here. So, it doesn't make that the right thing to do, but there's maybe two ways to raise another $250,000.
What we don't know is, we don't know if we change the cost of businesses 1%, we don't know what effect that has on them long term. We don't know.
I don't know.
So we're presenting some changes to things, but we don't know the long-term effect. You know,
never do.
so I don't
You
know
never
how
do
we get
anyway.
that. How do we get that wisdom? I don't know.
You never know the long-term effect. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, so it's,
No pun intended, yeah.
So I don't know, we'll go around the room, Tony or Toby.
I don't know. I would love to see something like this with current data. Might be helpful. But I remember last year when we did this, you were sliding it all over the place, and it just, every time you moved your mouse thing, it changed all the numbers. It was kind of cool, but it's like, whoa, okay, well, how about that? You know, it's there's so many options, it's hard to say. Personally, I'm gonna suggest that we don't try and kill this horse tonight, but that we take these thoughts and think about it and prepare for next month. For me, I'm gonna pray about it. It's all right.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, the only thought I had, definitely reluctant to making anything, the billing any more complicated, so I think the structure we have, I think we should largely keep it the same, but that's kind of my initial thought, and like you said, Toby.
How do you feel about changing the amount of the flow, the minimum flow?
Yeah, kind of reluctant to changing that too, but again, like.
How did you get that data initially anyway, from 84 to 79? Where did that come from, data?
Well, in the past, we used 84.
Well, where'd that come from? Is that an actual number?
It initially was 90.
That was, yeah, it was initially 94.
Is it 94,000?
No, but how did that number,
So
take
where
it out of
that
here at
number
9
came
o'clock,
from,
8 o'clock?
I can't say.
That's
This
before
was-
my time, I mean,
Well, I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
And then there's a 2012, I think, subcommittee that went really in depth. And what resulted from that was they brought the flow down from 90, I think it was 96,000 to 84,000. How they got there,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Where did the number come
oh,
from?
okay, so the idea, you know,
we're getting,
That's all, you can make graphs all night. Let
me try to answer your question, okay? Back when I was on the town council, people were complaining about sewer rates. And there were a lot of people who were coming in even to the town council and saying, why don't they charge us based on our water use, you know? I'm living alone in my 4-bedroom house and blah, 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 and I don't use much water and I only flush the toilet twice a day and, so there was a big study done about what would happen if we charged based on user rates. And actually that committee recommended that we charge based on the water use everywhere. The authority in its wisdom decided not to do that, but those numbers were in place at that time. How they got there,
Well, that's what I'm
I have
saying.
no idea.
Now, you've taken that and extrapolated it down from 94 to 84, and now we're at 79.
But what happened then was the authority did recognize that it seemed to be out of balance. And they decided they didn't want to make that change all the way down to.
But again, how did you know it was out of?
Let me finish, okay? They decided to move incrementally to bring the home water use closer to the average than we were at that time. So they've made a couple of incremental changes over the years since then to bring that 94 down to where it is now, 79. So we could do another incremental change, which was part of the philosophy. But again, you know, that's us now. We could do that again, but there's really no, you know, you can have a philosophical argument all day long about, you know, how should we divide up who pays what?
No.
And that's part of what that
You go to
argument
the store and
is.
buy something, it's a price on it, there it is, you know, and you gotta know how much does it cost.
Yeah.
You pay
Well,
your
in the
tax
end-
bill, you pay a tax bill, it says so much per thousand, that's what it is.
I mean, in the end, we decide on a budget, and we need to raise the revenue to make that budget work. So then the question is, assuming we have a certain budget that we believe we need to spend, how do we divide that up among the users? And all this is doing is dividing it up.
Okay, so we're working backwards from, we have a number we have to hit, and how do we get there?
Yeah, now, that's the way we looked at it in previous years, but kind of this year, you know, we have a choice of keeping 415 and doing some other things, or we could raise the rates and do nothing and make no other changes. That's, okay.
He mentioned the hookup fee, how do you determine a hookup fee to town, how do they determine that?
That'll be next meet, that'll be part of the public hearing.
How do you said $1,300, how did you get that number?
So we take, there's a formula that has been used, and then, so we determine the number, and then we use the CPI, the construction index.
Okay,
So whatever that goes up over last year,
so that's you
percentage
start with
is
that base and work from that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave?
I don't know, I think I'm kind of with Toby in terms of kind of, it's a lot of information to take in. I almost think I have to really need more time to think about it and.
Good.
Yeah, I'm just not sure.
I think both make sense, but there are some challenges. Like the reducing the flow, we have to know like how much that will eliminate the increase, right? We're talking about $20 increase versus whatever we save from reducing the flow, right? So if it is like, just to pick a number, $10 it's going to reduce, then that's $10 from everybody that's coming from the big business, right? So that kind of comparison we would need.
So, Tony, how much additional revenue are you looking for to achieve how much over last year are you looking for to achieve this year's budget?
So if we go $15, $20 times, catching me off guard here. 20 times,
Well, if that's the only question you're asking, then it's, you're looking
times
for
11,000?
80,000.
11,000? Where's 11,000 coming from?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, if you keep the current policy, raise the rates by $20, you collect another 232,000.
To 430, from 415 to 435, that's what you're doing. Okay.
No, that's with these numbers, you probably get a little different. You know, is it
Yeah, it's about-
210,000 or 240,000?
About 250, 260,000 in revenue, yeah.
So one way of looking at it is, how do we want to get that 250,000?
Rob Peter to pay Paul.
You want the feds to give us a grant.
Right, well, they're already giving us a grant, I mean, the ARPA thing is huge.
Hey, you asked.
And that is a good point, we've been getting more of that funding in years past, right? So we haven't increased the rates, but we have increased the budget, right? Because we've gotten those funds.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's taking 3 years of projects off that list that you have. Yeah.
All right, Jim, I think we've heard from you, got any more? Anybody else?
It's a little sketchy to me, but I'm from the business world, so.
With with the apartments, that two things are there.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
With the
We'll have to find out
apartments,
what we're
the
paying.
two
Let's look, well, let's speak, yeah.
Yeah, with the apartments, that income level and also the usage is low, right? How do we, if we make it flat, how do we account for all the, there'll be like pushbacks, right?
We don't know.
Well, we know their usage is probably not gonna change on average.
Unless you have another pandemic.
Viewpoints one way or the other.
So, yeah, when we put the budget together, our main goal is be good stewards for the environment, treat the water, put out a good product to the river. So we need to make sure we cover the O&M costs, which includes all the labor, equipment, materials. And then also it involves the capital improvement projects, which is essentially preventive maintenance, trying to prevent any sewer collapses, which will discharge raw sewage to the environment. That's really the main goal when we're putting this together. As far as getting more income, like I mentioned before, if we, the tightest thing to do would be to drop the minimum usage, the gallons down. But when we do that, we're going from a more fixed budget to a more variable budget. The more we drop that down, you're putting more onto the
Business, somebody has to pick
business
it up.
community,
Somebody got to pay it.
which is a variable number that's gonna move each year with water usage. And if we have a big consumer leave town, that's gonna leave a bigger gap that we need to fill for revenue.
Carlos is up for sale, I think.
They were bought, and
Somebody bought those guys out.
yeah. So someone like that left town.
But it's not an empty building, somebody in it occupying it.
Yeah, they were bought out and they were continuing to manufacture,
Yeah,
fortunately.
oh yeah.
They pay, $150,000, $160,000 a year, so that's a ton of revenue that we'd have to make up somewhere. So I'd put that out as a warning as
Did
well.
that go to
or just
did that go to
something-
bankruptcy court? Did that go to
Yes.
bankruptcy court?
I'm not sure where that went, I know it was bought out and, yeah, they're still producing,
No, but they weren't paying taxes, so the lien was put against the property. Most likely the sewer bill was probably against the property, wasn't it?
Well, they were paying up.
I think they were current
They
with
were?
sewer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were here a lot.
Okay.
They had some process issues that
Yeah.
some of you guys weren't around for, but I don't know how many times they came in here to, give us, we're trying very hard to fix these issues, et cetera, and they did.
Yeah, they've been working right along, and I've been in communication with the new operations manager, and
That's a big mutual company.
they wanna do they
They
seem
got
to
deep
wanna
pockets,
do the
they got
right
real
thing.
pockets.
But they've maintained the employment of the staff that they had, it's all local jobs, of course, so, yeah.
That was a nice family owned business.
So anyway, we can, I think we probably beat this horse as far as we want tonight, anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that, we could lower the usage at some point, but that's the kind of thing you do if you're backed into a corner and you need to do something. I don't think we're backed into a corner yet, so we can hold that on the back burner for now. But what I would suggest is my recommendation is for commissioners to not recycle this month, is keep it and review this stuff again, prepare for next month, thought-wise and creative-wise, talk to people, talk to neighbors, and that we motion to adjourn and come back next month.
You should send that file out to us so we could,
It's already been sent.
Well, I've got
Excel file?
Yeah, but these aren't.
oh, okay,
It
those
was
aren't
sent this
accurate
afternoon,
numbers.
so you might not have seen it.
oh, okay.
So, we had a motion, is there a second?
Well, before we bid you guys adieu, I just wanna say I am really blown away by, the amount of engagement you've put here is bar none, and you guys are really doing your civic duty here, and the majority of the population doesn't realize the impact that you guys are gonna have on them. And just thank you for your time, and it's really important what we're doing here.
Thank you.
I can't second it.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, there's, no discussion of a motion to adjourn, all in favor? Any opposed?
So you sent this out, you sent that out?
Yeah.